listening to the Orchestra Teacher Podcast. Welcome to the Orchestra Teacher Podcast. This is episode number 83, and we are live in my studio with a great friend, colleague, wonderful musician, wonderful conductor, Dr. David Doke. Dr. David Doke, thank you so much for being here, sir.
Thank you, Dr. Charles Locks.
David Doke has recently retired this year from Hillgrove High School here in Cobb County, Georgia, and we're going to talk about his career, his training, and all the great things he did, and then all the things he's doing now, and the transition to retirement, which some challenges. And
Indeed,
yeah. So it's a
surprisingly
a different way of working.
Indeed, it is. Yeah.
So tell us a little bit about your career. You know, all the things that you've done.
You know, it's a long career. So I was telling one of my students yesterday, one of my private students, it's been 50 years I've been playing violin.
Nice.
Yeah. So actually 51. I started when I was 9. And I think I was really fortunate because I was in 4th grade. There was a program in my hometown, Springfield, Missouri. There was a program to start students on stringed instruments in 4th grade. So
that's when I started.
Yeah. So I don't know. I kind of feel like that might be a good place to start. I think any younger than that, maybe I would have lost interest.
Okay.
I don't know, but
every year is a big difference. I remember when I was working in this KSU string project, I always started kids in 5th grade and in 6th grade. And then we started in 3rd grade, and it was like major difference.
Yeah, for sure.
Physical, mental, attention, brain development,
all of it.
Yeah. So 4th grade is a pretty good.
Yeah, I feel like it was a sweet spot for me. I really do. I feel like it was good. I was blessed to have some really good teachers early on as well. Had the school teacher, and then I had a private teacher who worked at the university. And I just stuck with it. And I think by the time I was maybe in 10th grade, it was a choice between baseball or music, and music seemed to be a better choice.
Yeah.
So,
well, you did well with it. I mean, and there's a lot of kids that play baseball, and I coach baseball, and my kids play baseball, and the chances of them actually doing baseball as a career or even as an adult, probably pretty slim.
Well, I had all of these teachers, and they were telling me from an early age that music would be a good way to get into college, and and that's exactly what happened. I took auditions and got several offers.
Great.
And I had kind of an untraditional route after I got to college. I did not do so well. Was not the greatest student.
Okay.
All I wanted to do was play violin. So the math classes and the English classes and the history classes kind of suffered a little bit. But I bounced around from a couple of different colleges. University of Arkansas, Southwest Missouri State. And then I eventually, after, I guess I was 21, I took an audition for an orchestra in Mexico. It was
Mexico?
The State Orchestra of Mexico in Toluca, which is a suburb of Mexico City.
Okay.
And I was there for about a year and a half, and then I took an audition for the Graz Festival in Austria.
Graz, yeah. Mm-hmm.
And I made alternate. And I was bummed out about that, but then about 2 weeks later, I got the call and went to Austria and played in that orchestra, which was fantastic.
I bet.
But I did all of that before I had finished my first degree.
Wow.
So I didn't have a degree. I met my wife in Mexico City and while I was playing there, and when I came back from Europe, she and I got married, and we had to have a plan. And so the plan was to go to the conservatory at UMKC.
Oh, yeah, it's
in
great.
Kansas City. Great program. Yeah. I studied with Tiberius Klausner there. Finished up, had 2 years left, and finished up there, and then went to DePaul University for my master's degree in violin performance. I studied with Mark Zinger. And then I ended up teaching. It was kind of a weird thing. I had been playing in Mexico and had the opportunity to play full-time in Mexico, like as a career. And my mom got sick with cancer. It was a terrible time for the whole family, but I went back home to be with the family, and then heard about this position in North Cobb.
At North Cobb High School in Cobb County.
Cobb County, where's that?
Yeah.
Right? So that's how I felt about it. I had no idea what a great place I was landing with that job. And so that was in 1994 that I started. I was at North Cobb for 12 years, and then one of my students at North Cobb, Mary Boland, who I believe now plays in the Houston Symphony.
Oh, nice.
But she went to Indiana. Great student. Her dad was a principal here in Cobb County, and he was selected to be the principal for the new school, Hillgrove, that was opening. And so I got in touch with him, and I was the second person hired after the football coach.
Wow. And so you just heard about the school. It was in a growing area of town.
Yeah.
Yep.
Exactly. Yeah. So it was great. It was hard to leave North Cobb because I had been there for so long. I remember my daughter cried. She was so, she knew all of my students and and she was really upset about me leaving. But yeah, going to Hillgrove was a great opportunity for me to start another program, second program.
Yeah.
And just had great support from my administrators all the time, great band directors to work with. It was a great place to be. It was perfect
Very
for me.
cool.
So,
very cool. And I opened a brand new school my second year teaching. And so our joke was like, I've been here since dirt.
Right. Yeah.
And literally we got to go to the construction site and see the, and then we all had little vials of dirt.
Yeah, I wish I had thought of that.
School.
Yeah, it's really weird to look back on those days now, but there were no trees. The parking lots hadn't been asphalted yet or any of that stuff. No lockers.
Yeah.
The theater didn't have seats in it. All of that kind of stuff.
It's cool to see that development. And
exactly.
Be there like in that first thing.
It was it was a really great part of my career to open that school.
Yeah.
So that's pretty much it. And then I play. I mean, I still play, and I played all through my career. I still played as a violinist. So,
yeah. So 17 years at Hillgrove, you said, right? Is that right?
Let me think how that worked out. It was so long, 12 and 18.
18 years.
18 years at Hillgrove.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then, so last spring, 2024, you retired.
Yeah.
And I was at your concert.
You performed in the concert.
Performed at your concert because you did some cool stuff, and you had invited Jim Palmer and Harrison and some of your friends to play in the last piece.
Yeah.
Yeah. So tell us a little about that. That was a really cool experience to see that.
Well, I mean, that whole night is like a dream. Honestly, it was difficult emotionally for me, and I had been dreading it. As we were getting to the. As the event was coming, I knew this is my last concert. Yeah. What how's that going to go? And so we had this tradition at Hillgrove. The school song is "Ashokan Farewell" by Jay Unger. I don't know if you know it.
Yeah, I know.
Beautiful tune.
It's a school song?
Yeah.
Did you help?
It was my idea.
Okay.
Yes.
Like, you helped with that.
Yeah. So, that was early on, the first couple of weeks of school. And it's a beautiful song. It's everybody, I'm sure, knows it. There's a great arrangement.
Fiddle tune and
all of that. So for the last concert for every year, we would play "Ashokan Farewell" to send off our seniors, to say goodbye to our seniors.
Piece to do that. Yeah.
And as we play the song, one by one, the seniors leave the stage.
Oh, like the Farewell Symphony.
Pretty much. It's exactly how it was. So all of the seniors get up and leave. And then when the song ends, we're left with what the new orchestra is going to be. And it's a very touching.
Sure.
Like, I get choked up talking about it right now.
That's awesome.
So parents would cry, kids would cry, and it was just a great way to send off the seniors. So we would finish and recognize the seniors and wish them well. So that we've done that every year.
Yeah.
So this last year, one of the parents in my booster club surprised me with a 4-minute long video from Jay Unger himself, the composer.
Oh, cool.
Saying how much he appreciated what we were doing with this piece and, what I was doing as a teacher and everything.
Nice.
And this year you'll be walking off with your seniors during the song.
Yeah.
So we got to show this video, and it was really
I remember, it
was tough.
It was good. It was very good. So that's a tough thing. So tell us a little bit about your transition now. Obviously you're still playing and you want to teach.
Yeah, I've got.
And while you're doing that, I'm gonna just let everybody see your website.
Oh,
real
cheers!
fast.
Thanks.
So here it is. It's daviddokestrings.com.
Correct.
And I'm gonna move my microphone over.
Yeah.
So I can scroll through a little bit. Tell us a little bit about your new things, what you're doing.
So I've got a couple of private students, which I've had in the past, and it's always fun to work with a student one-on-one. You can give them individual attention and work on specific problems, and can do a lot more in a private lesson than you can in a classroom, obviously. Playing a good bit. I have a string quartet, as you know.
Yes. Well,
and so we get gigs. We get gigs for weddings and such. So I do.
We need to do more.
A good bit of playing there.
Yeah.
And then some guest conducting. I've done a couple of honor orchestras, and then really the biggest thing is coaching sectionals. So Metropolitan Youth Symphony, several of the local high schools here, and then for LGPE.
You've already forgotten what it is, and you haven't even been a year.
I always called it festival. Orchestra festival.
That's
LGP.
That's too nice. So you can't say festival anymore. It's
large group performance evaluation.
There.
Right. So I'm judging several of those in Georgia here in the next couple of months. So I'm keeping just busy enough. It's nice.
Yeah, and you get to pick and choose when you want to work.
I mean, I'm choosing all the time. I'm choosing
choosing to work.
Yeah, anytime something's offered, I'm going to jump in and do it. So
yeah,
it's good. It's I'm finding my footing.
Yeah.
It's really shocking how much free time I have. And that's an uncomfortable thing
right.
after.
Well, you're not doing any of the administrative work anymore. That's a time suck.
Any of it.
Any
of it. Just the days that you guys put in.
Yeah.
The days that I used to put in. I go back and look at some of my calendars again as I was cleaning out my office. I found all of these. So I have all of these old calendars and trips to China and all of the stuff that.
Yeah. Tell us about some of your trips because it's not a normal trip schedule that you do.
That's the time suck.
Okay.
As you were
planning these trips. Yeah.
Yeah, the trips are they became an expectation, I think, at my school.
Okay.
And that was fine because that meant that
but you liked it.
People wanted to go. I did like
doing it. Right?
I love doing it, but it is a lot of extra work. A lot of extra work, particularly the international trips.
You could almost be a consultant for travel, like just not even working for a company, but just giving people advice on like, well, what do you do? I got to talk to you about stuff. But yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it was. It wasn't like the international trip was the first trip. The international trips were, they all happened down the road after we had done it several times. So like some of the very first trips were Disney. Going to Disney or going to Williamsburg. I think was kind of a big one. But then I had the opportunity to send a tape in, or send a CD in for a festival at Carnegie Hall, and I was like, I'll just send it in. What could what's worse that could happen?
That's how it goes.
And I'll never forget. I was at our neighborhood swimming pool, and I got a phone call, and we had made it. And it's like, oh my God, we're playing at Carnegie Hall. How does that happen? So that was, I want to say that was like 2000. I can't remember which time was the first, but I took North Cobb to Symphony Hall in Boston, which was a pretty big trip at that time because we had to fly, and that was, I think, 2006. And then Carnegie Hall, we ended up doing 4 times with Hillgrove, and we played at Orchestra Hall in Chicago. We won a festival at the Kennedy Center, so we got to perform there twice, actually.
Nice. Yeah.
Which was pretty great. And then the international trips, I'm not sure I would have ever done international except my colleague Patrick Irwin, who was the band director at Hillgrove at the time. He and I had this crazy idea of taking the groups to China. He had a connection with somebody, and we ended up making it happen. We took 278 people.
Wow!
For a 2-week concert tour of China. Yeah, we were in Beijing, Shanghai, and Hangzhou. And I mean, I look back on that and I can't believe that we did it.
Yeah.
But it was a life-changing.
What year was that? You remember?
That was 2016.
Okay. So,
not even that long ago.
Yeah, before COVID though. That's travels became a lot different, I think, after COVID. But
it did, and I think in terms of getting approval for those kinds of trips, I think that's become way more difficult.
Yeah. Yeah, I know that we have to have for anything international. Now it's like a year notice with like a full itinerary and everything. And so that becomes challenging.
We had to have attorneys on our last trip, which actually was just April of last year. We went to Iceland and performed in Reykjavik. Yeah. And we had to have attorneys look over the contracts. And it was it was a lot more than we had ever had to do before. But yeah, we did China in 2016. We played at the 75th anniversary of the D-Day landings in Normandy, France in 2019.
Wow. 19, okay.
And then my swan song, as they say, was the trip to Reykjavik. We played at Harpa Hall in Reykjavik, which was an amazing experience.
Nice.
So, but all of those things are just so much extra work, extra booster meetings and extra this and all of the paperwork. And it was a lot. Yeah. Always worth it. Always worth it.
And Hillgrove, is affluent, but not like over the top affluent. So, when you say, okay, we're going to go to Iceland, and now you took a good number of kids.
Yeah.
Like that's what always surprises me is like, how did you get that many kids to go? Because, I'm doing a trip to Dollywood and I only got like 46 kids to go. And that's only like a $400 trip. But these are thousands and thousands of dollars. Like what are some of the strategies that you use to get?
Well,
I mean, obviously you have a tradition.
Yeah.
And then kids talk and parents talk and like, okay, we're going to China, we're going to here, we're going to here. But what are some of the things that you say would be tips for the people listening to this?
Well, so first of all, the Carnegie trips, once we had done that once, the middle school parents heard about it, they knew about it, and the second time we went, it was because somebody said, hey, do you think we could do that again? I was like, well, let's see. And we did.
Yeah.
And then that became a thing.
Sure. So
if you've got parents of 7th and 8th graders that know a year or two ahead of time that this is something that may be coming up, that's I think how it worked. When we would play at the big concert halls like Carnegie Hall or Orchestra Hall in Chicago, those kinds of things would be just for the top orchestra.
Okay.
We called it the festival orchestra, but
it was the top orchestra.
It was the top orchestra.
Okay.
So the international trips we opened up to everybody, including rising 9th graders.
Oh, wow.
Right.
Okay.
So if we knew that we were taking a trip next year, rising 9th graders, the 8th graders this year, they would get all of the information.
They need a year's notice to one for approval and then saving money.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So the international trips are always 2 years out.
Okay.
So if you save $200 a month, for 2 years, that's kind of how we would frame it.
But it is an investment for sure. But I know I have to imagine like those big trips have to be life-changing experiences for the kids,
And for me.
And well, yeah, of course.
Mean, it was
selfishly we get the things that we do same way.
Yeah, exactly. So, I don't know that I really had to sell it that much, but it always was far enough in the future that we could say $150 a month for 10 months. Mm-hmm. That takes you to Carnegie Hall. Those Carnegie trips were about $1,500 per student.
Okay. Yeah.
Iceland, I think, was like just right at $4,000.
Yeah.
But again, 2 years to plan for it.
Right.
And if both of my personal kids, my own,
we call them our kids,
my
your
real
personal kids, your own kids.
So my daughter Ellie, who's now 26, was a violinist in my orchestra, and she played at Carnegie. She actually had a solo on the Piazzolla Four Seasons, which was
cool.
pretty great. She earned it. She earned the solo.
This guy.
And then my son was with us as a band student. He's a percussionist. He was a band student on the trip to France. Mm-hmm. And there's no way that I was going to let my kids miss out on that, whether I was the director or not.
Yeah,
those are the kinds of experiences that you'll always remember.
Right.
Ellie will be 50 years old someday, and she'll say, "Oh, I remember when I performed at Carnegie."
Yeah, that's pretty cool. That's pretty cool.
So those are really once in a lifetime type of opportunities.
Absolutely.
So,
absolutely.
And travel gives. There's so much more to it than the music too. You get a different perspective. There were always students. There are always parents on any of those trips. Well, this is the first time they've been on a plane. Or this is the first time they've left Georgia. That's
isn't that the coolest? Like,
yeah.
I took a group in 2005 to Reno for the ASTA conference when it was in Reno.
Right.
From my group from Florida, and we were a demonstration group for a session, and we did some other things obviously too. But holy cow! Like a lot of those kids like never left Orlando before, and then they get on a plane, they go all the way into the mountains in Reno, and it's like, life-changing for them.
For sure.
It was really cool. Just an eye-opener in the string world, particularly because they got to see all the, the exhibit hall and concerts and mountains that they, snow.
And probably mingle with some other students with similar
sure.
interests from a different part of the country, all of that. So, I think it's a valuable thing to be able to offer for numerous reasons. Yeah. It's good for the program. It's good for the prestige of the program. It's good for the students, something to work for, obviously. The Carnegie performances or Orchestra Hall or Kennedy Center, all of those were performances that younger students are looking up to saying, wow, I want to do that.
Right.
So, you kind of build this, it becomes a self-perpetuating sort of thing. So, it was a big part of what we did, was the traveling.
And not every school, does that or can do that, honestly, but it sounds like it was a huge part of your program and help the success. Yeah. It's a recruitment tool, it's a retention tool.
Yeah, all of it.
I mean, there are so many kids that will stay in a program because of the trip, Yeah. And a lot of the 8th grade kids say, "Oh, I'm staying on this in orchestra so I can go to Disney."
Yeah.
It's like for a 2-day trip, they're going to work for 3 years.
Right.
Yeah. It's great.
And I was really fortunate that the band directors that I worked with were all just great people, great musicians. They worked incredibly hard, those guys. The marching season, I don't know how they do it, but on top of all of that, Patrick was the one that said, "Hey, let's go to China." And so we did China trip with the band, and then in 2019, "Hey, let's go play at the D-Day, the celebration of the D-Day landings." Okay, let's go do that. And then in 24, this last one in Iceland, I was the one that brought the trip up, and we invited the band's students to come with us.
How many kids did you take to Iceland?
The students I think it was 101 students, and
that's still a lot.
38 adults, I think.
Okay, wow. So a lot of chaperones want to go to Iceland.
Yeah, for sure. There's always a lot of chaperones that want to go, it seems like.
And then, did you guys do any combined performance, or is it mostly separate, or did you do some together?
So the Iceland trip was combined and separate. A little bit of everything. So, in Iceland, there were like some small ensembles that performed. We had one student that had composed a piece, and they performed that. And then we did like 2 or 3 combined pieces, and then a bunch of string pieces. So that was actually, I think on every trip it was kind of like that. A few combined, a few full orchestra pieces, and then a few just string pieces. So
that's great.
Yeah, and another important part to all of this is that the band and orchestra students, it was still band and orchestra.
Right. Yeah, they're kind of built that way.
But we definitely hung out. There was there was a sense of family about the instrumental music program. That's who we are.
Yeah, that's good.
So, it worked out well.
It's not always the case, there's a lot of separation.
I've seen it where the band and orchestra directors don't talk.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's no fun.
I don't know that I could operate like that.
Did you feel like there were any times where this was just a question for listeners, like any times where you feel like there were things that you didn't agree on and you had to like either sacrifice or sit down and meet and come to agreements on things?
Yeah, you always have to compromise. There's always going to be little things. How are you going to do this? How are you going to do this? I remember back in the North Cobb days in the early 2000s, we did a trip to St. Louis with the band, and my wife went along as a chaperone, and she could not believe that the band parents were taping the doors at night. Like, those kids aren't going to do. It's like, those are band kids. The band world is a little different. They travel a lot more than we do. They do games and they do competitions and all of that stuff. So, they had their way of doing things. We had our way of doing things. And then, we had to make some compromises for all of that. But that's the case anytime. Anytime we put together a full symphony, there's compromises about rehearsal space and rehearsal times. Yeah. And, if I'm taking the top players out of the band program to rehearse for my concert, when are we going to do that? Are we going to do it during school? Are we going to do it after school? Yeah. So figuring that kind of stuff out. But again, Chris Farrell, Patrick Irwin, Jeremy Lumpkin now, all of these guys, head band directors, just great people to work with. Greg Williams, This is going way back, but I was really fortunate to have.
Yeah, you had some good guys.
They were friends.
Right.
That's the best thing about it is that not just colleagues, but good friends as well.
Yeah,
so,
that's the best colleague to have. Is someone that you can confide in.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah. So tell us, how about some favorite repertoire, the things that you love, like that that maybe some lesser known things. Maybe if you can think of anything that you want to share. Because you always have so many great ideas.
Well, I try to, but I think every director if you've done it for enough years, you find that the Czech Serenade again, Elgar again. So
well, there's those. Yeah,
those are the ones that are always there, and I feel that those are important pieces for students to know. Mm-hmm. So every 3 or 4 years, I would try to those bigger pieces. I would try to do a movement or two. The Shostakovich Sinfonia, that's my favorite. It's my absolute favorite. It's such a challenge to conduct. It's a challenge to teach.
Yep.
Really bizarre fingerings with the chromaticism all over the place. The story of Shostakovich and the story of that piece is just amazing. And I love being able to tell the students that part of it. They love the angst of that piece. Mm-hmm. It's just just so it's so full of it. Yeah, it's very intense. But when they understand what Shostakovich had been going through, and then that the piece is autobiographical, and the first 4 notes are DSCH, and all of that, it's a wonderful piece and a great piece to teach, and so hard. It's so very hard to play, pull off. When it comes to symphonic rep, you have to be careful about instrumentation. Mm-hmm. So, a lot of the symphonic rep is very basic brass and wind. Yeah. Not big, huge. We're not doing a Mahler symphony or anything like that. But
what's your philosophy on? I know there's one kind of philosophy of we're going to have a lot of the band kids play and double the parts and things, or there's the other philosophy of no, it's one on a part and we're going to do traditional.
I think it depends on what the performance situation is. Mm-hmm. So, like on my last concert, we did Finlandia. Yeah, and I think there were some doubled up parts on that, just because they wanted to be a part of that concert. But if we're going to Carnegie Hall, it's going to be the traditional setup. Finlandia is a great one. I think that's a great one for honor orchestras, honestly, because you do this section. You do this section, you do this section. It's all within reach.
But it sounds harder than it really is. Well, I mean, there's some challenges in it, but I would say that's one of the pieces that I would say sounds harder than it really is.
I would say so too. Yeah. But it's a good piece to teach because it's not super technical for any part. Mm-hmm. And a lot of times in an honor orchestra or even in our symphony, at school, a lot of times those brass and wind kids don't have the opportunity to play. Right. And so you kind of have to teach the balance and the quality of the sound and all of that. Aside from the notes, that's a big part of the learning experience of playing in a symphony for those students. So I think that's a great piece for that. The Dvorak, the finale of New World, another one that's like that. It does have that really tough horn solo, but that's a great piece as well. Beethoven 1. Yes. Beethoven's First is a great piece. I mean, all 4 movements are well within reach. And how cool is it at a high school concert to be able to do a full symphony? Yeah, right. All 4 movements. Schubert 8 Unfinished is a great one. Egmont Overture, Beethoven's Egmont, another great one. So those are the big ones that I kind of lean on a lot. I know pretty well. There's some other ones, of course. Yeah. And then the string stuff, I talk to other colleagues a lot. You and I have talked a good deal about rep. Perry Holbrook turned me on to Theophanides.
I don't know.
Visions and Miracles. Great piece.
Who's the composer?
Theophanides.
Oh, he's a composer. Okay, what is the piece called?
Visions and Miracles, I think.
Visions and Miracles.
Yeah, okay. It's a really cool one. We did that at GMEA a couple of years ago.
Is that like is it modern or is it public? Okay, it's a modern piece.
Very very much modern. It's a really good one. So I mean, I would suggest, talk to colleagues as much as you can.
Yeah.
You have to know your orchestra.
Right.
Anytime you're choosing rep, I'm sure everybody knows this, but anytime you're choosing rep, it has to be something that's teachable. I always try to figure out during the first concert cycle of the year in the fall, I try to figure out what the weaknesses are. So if the weakness is, long sustained tones or playing legato or balance or whatever,
then you do Barbara Adagio.
Exactly. Something like that.
Yeah.
But so finding a piece that's going to be a good fit for your students. They need to be able to learn something from the piece other than just learning the music. There has to be, there should be some kind of technical thing in there. It has to be within reach. So many times, I'm sure everybody knows about this, but you've judged some LGPEs. It's all too common for a director to overprogram.
Yeah. And everybody does it.
Yeah.
Everybody's done it. Mm-hmm. And if you say you haven't, you're probably a liar. Yeah.
Yeah. So
it's easy to do because we have this thing inside of us saying we want to challenge our kids and we like the piece or there's lots of different reasons, obviously, or there's an expectation of this is what's been done in the past. And,
right. Or the worst thing, they're doing this at that school.
Right.
So we got to step up. So that's not what it's about. That's not teaching.
Yeah.
That's a dangerous road to go down. So always make sure that whatever you choose is achievable.
Yeah.
It's got to be challenging, but it's got to be achievable. And you don't want to be pulling out the Barbara Adagio.
Right.
I've never done it.
Okay. I've
never
done it twice. But yeah.
It's a tough one for sure.
Definitely is.
Yeah.
So cool. And then tell us a little bit more also about some of the things that you told me, and I don't know if you want to share. With retirement and not going into work every day, like what's that like? I mean, I know you're picking and choosing when you want to work, but
it's an adjustment. My wife is a professional artist and has a studio away from the house. So most days she teaches 3 days a week. And then the rest of the time she's doing her own art. Now we get the evenings together, which is great, but I find that I have a lot of time at home, just by myself. And during my teaching career, that never happened. I was never, ever alone.
Yeah. Right. You go to work, there's people there and
and always talking and always interacting. And so that not being there during the day is surprisingly a mental challenge. It really is.
Yeah.
And
have you done anything new? Have you have any new hobbies or new routines besides sleeping more, probably, right?
I am definitely getting more sleep. I'm definitely getting more sleep.
What else? Is there anything else?
I fill my time with golf. I play a little bit of golf.
Good. Yeah.
Well, I hit, I'm no good, but I do. But it's so cold out now that's not happening.
Yeah.
I'm practicing daily.
Oh.
So I've gone back and I'm hitting all of those Kreutzer etudes and working on the Tchaikovsky concerto. I don't think I have any business doing that, but it's filling my time a little bit.
But it keeps your chops up, right?
It definitely does.
I have all this stuff back here, and I was like, I want to practice my instrument. I want to make songs and play guitar and keep learning my bass. And,
yeah.
I'm doing this, but this is time. But
this is pretty impressive, though.
It's fun.
It's really cool that you do this.
It's fun.
Yeah. So not everything that I do is music now.
Good.
And I think before I retired, everything was music.
Yeah.
I might be able to get in golf on a weekend or something like that. So it's not all music now. Like I said, I'm getting out doing some backpacking.
Cool.
Just trying to do things that I enjoy. Mm-hmm. And it's hard. It's hard to do that and not feel guilty, or not feel like, I don't feel guilty, but I feel like there's a concert to get ready for, or there's always this just nagging. You need to be doing this. You need to be doing that. So I don't know.
I can imagine that would be challenging.
It is a little bit, but
I think it's probably, since it's new this year, and something that you'll start just getting used to, and that'll be what you do. But the great thing is, you're still keeping pretty active with your coaching, and that's fantastic.
Yeah. Jim Palmer, who I'm sure a lot of your listeners know Jim, but he told me last year, I was like, I feel guilty about retiring. And he goes, why? He goes, you've put in 30 years. You know, he tried to make me feel good about it. It's still, I feel a little bit like I should still be working. I should still be.
But, you know, like the other thing is too, that, I mean, that work is important, but balance is also important, you know, and I love my job and I love working, but I also feel like there's a whole bunch of things that I probably could do that I would like to do that I don't have time to do now.
Yeah.
You know, or I don't have that flexibility, you know, to do.
The flexibility is the nice thing. And what I tell my friends, told you this as well, I feel like I can breathe. I feel like I can
really breathe.
I do feel more relaxed. And
because once one concert's over, you breathe for a minute and you're like, oh, there's this next thing coming up, you know? And,
and like even
always something.
And last year was completely filled up with concerts and you know, like you, I'm sure you probably are doing some judging this year or
a little bit. Yep.
Yeah. And so, you know, even
during my, you know,
during my career, there were still all of these extra things that were going on, kind of what I'm doing now, but I was doing it on top of teaching. So that's, and then again, the Iceland trip last year on top of everything, it was just, I just was getting crushed with everything. And then nothing. You know? So it's a little bit weird. Yeah. And those are the things that Kathy Hudnall and I were talking about this. Everybody, you get prepared to be a teacher, right? Like people prepare you. And of course you don't know until you're in it, what it's actually all about, but nobody prepares you for retirement. Like nobody told me, oh, you're going to be bored. Oh, you're going to feel this way, or you're going to feel that way. You know, it's,
you're telling everybody now, this is how you're going to feel when you retire. Right? Yeah. And I know that there's probably a whole bunch of people out there that are really far away from it. Any advice you can give as to, you know, career choices or, you know, when people are in positions maybe they're not the most happy with, or just different things like that. Do you have any experiences that you've encountered that?
You know, I mean, I think everybody's situation is different.
Sure.
So, you know, there's financial considerations. Do you have to work after retirement? Do you play an instrument? Like, is there an opportunity to perform when you're retired? You know, there's just, I think everybody's situation is unique.
How many private students do you have right now?
I've got 4 at the moment.
Okay. Yeah. Is that your cap?
Nope. I've got a whole nother day.
Noted. Yeah. I have to get you some more some students.
I've got 4 great students right now. Though. They're really awesome.
That's nice. Yeah. And what are some of the things that you like? I know a lot of our teachers out there to also teach privately. What are some of your like philosophical things with private studio or like general rudimentary things that you?
I think
every student does this. Obviously, scales what.
You know, I think just have a system in place. You know, is a student in a Moses book, Wolfart book, or Kreutzer? You know, at what level are they? And then just drill down on the technique. I think that's really the biggest thing about private lessons is you get to work on technique. My professor at DePaul, Mr. Zinger, used to tell me the worst thing for my playing was to play in an orchestra. And when I was in Chicago, I played in the Chicago Chamber Orchestra. I played in the Rockford Symphony. I was playing in all of these orchestras. And he would tell me that that's the worst thing for your technique, because you're not thinking about your technique. You're thinking about the crescendo and watching the director and making sure that your bowing is right and all of these other things. So when you're in a private lesson or when you're working on an etude, you're drilling down on, you know, whatever it is my elbow here or, you know, so.
That's a good point.
Yeah. So my philosophy about private lessons is identify the weaknesses and work on those weaknesses. And there are specific etudes for different things. And if you're a good teacher, you know that this etude helps this etude helps that. Yeah. Get them on the right etude. Unless a student is preparing for college auditions or an audition to get into a summer camp or something, the rep is always secondary. Yeah. So, and again, the rep has to be appropriate to the student's level. Sure. But I think technique, it was the way I was taught. The technique is the most important thing.
Do you work on orchestra music at all?
No.
Like you refuse?
No. every once in a while, a student will come in and ask about a fingering.
Sure. Okay.
All right.
Yeah.
And then that's an opportunity to teach. Well, how would you figure it out? Why would I choose this fingering over that fingering? And that way they learn the I call it the hierarchy of shifting.
Nice.
Do you shift here? Why are you shifting here? Does it make it easier? Does it make it harder? Is there a string crossing involved?
Right.
So, being mindful of those choices, figuring out how things work. So I guess that's my philosophy.
That's cool.
If I
That's
have
great.
one.
That's
Yeah.
great. Good stuff in there.
Well, the goal is for them to become independent musicians. So they have to be able
yep.
to make some decisions by themselves.
Yep.
And that again was kind of my philosophy in the classroom as well. I didn't want to be a teacher-centered classroom. I wanted the students to have a voice. Back to choosing repertoire.
Yeah.
This was a funny thing that happened years and decades ago. At North Cobb, I told the students, it's like, I want you to have a choice. Let's listen to some songs and we'll decide together. And so they would come up with an idea, and they assumed that because they came up with this piece, that's the piece I was going to approve. It's like, it's not a democracy. You guys get to give me some suggestions, and then I make the decision.
Yeah.
It's a doke-tatorship.
A Doke.
So for years and years, at the end of the year, I would get, signs and posters, doke-tatorship, and
Nice.
all of that. So
That's funny.
yeah. So, but I do think it's important for them to have a voice.
Yeah. Yeah. I like sight reading different pieces and then, letting them comment and figure out. And there are some that you'll sight read that they just bomb.
Yeah.
Right. And I tell you, and I know it's a great piece. I know eventually,
Right.
once they learn it, I said, you could not base your opinion of this piece on your inability to sight read it perfectly the first time. Right. So one of those examples is a piece, I don't know if you know Francis Feast's Winter Soliloquy. It's an oldie.
I don't know it.
It's on the grade 4 list, and we're doing it this year. And the kids, when we first started it, they hated it. But the more we worked on it and we're shaping it, and all of a sudden now it's like, okay, they're like getting into it and they're moving, and it's like, yes,
Yeah.
got it,
So my experience is that students really like loud and fast.
Right. Oh, of course.
Right.
Yeah.
So you put something that's legato and lyrical and slow in front of them. So, but you got to do it. You gotta. Those are the important decisions. that you
Yeah,
have
and
to make.
it's challenging. I mean, we're also my chamber group is doing the Algar elegy right now,
Yeah.
and it's the notes. There's not much to look at note wise, but there's so much in there,
Right.
And we're having to. And some of the rehearsals can be you might consider them a little painful because you're working with a section and it's like, oh no, we got to do that again. No, you didn't breathe enough, or you're not moving here. There's not enough crescendo. And we can be
Using too much bow.
very nitpicky,
Yeah.
and it's the kids sometimes don't like that, but at the same time they're starting to get it now a little bit, and as we get closer to our performance, it's like, okay, starting to get there.
Good.
But it just takes a while.
Looking forward to hearing it.
Yeah, you're just going to be one of my mock judge for the pre-LGPE large group performance evaluation that we do, and that's 2 weeks from tonight. So it's coming up fast.
See, I don't have to worry about this stuff anymore.
Right? Look at this guy. He's just like, I'm just going to go and get paid to judge you.
No, it's
So, well, hey, it's been great.
Well,
thanks for sharing
you're welcome.
all of this info and coming to the studio to hang. And
well. I hope people find it interesting.
Yeah.
It's. I think it's important. Not that I'm sage wisdom or anything like that, but I do think it's important to check in with colleagues
Right.
and just see what's going on and
yeah,
what they're doing.
And
such.
there's a lot of people out there that don't have 10 orchestra directors within 3 miles
Right.
of them. But I got this guy. David Eccles, my good friend, is 3 miles from here. Like, I mean,
Yeah.
there are just people here.
Yeah.
But I know a lot of you out there are maybe don't have that, or you're a little more isolated and don't have that ability to chat with people. So that's what this resource is kind of for, is just to give them something to listen to. And David, if people want to reach out to you, I'm going to go ahead and pull your
just
website again.
David Doke Strings. I think all
David
of
Doke strings.
of my contact information is.
Yep. It's up in the corner here.
Yeah.
Yep. There it is. So I will share your email address, drdaviddoke@gmail.com.
Correct.
And that way, if you're available to do guest conducting. I know you did some regional groups and things like that.
Yeah.
So it would be great if anybody's interested in finding it, he won't have a conflict.
Yeah, wide open.
He will not have a conflict. But thanks again for being here. Appreciate it.
Yeah, man.
Everybody out there in Orchestra Teacher Land, thanks so much for listening, and we will see you all next time on the Orchestra Teacher Podcast. Thank you for tuning in. For resources and more information, visit orchestrateacher.net.